first introduction is from a Kentucky poet laureate legend. Please welcome the one and only man from Harlan, Pennington. I'm going to pull this down a little bit because these tall guys, they stand up here and look down. I have to look up at a microphone. What a pleasure it is to be here tonight and be part of this wonderful event. You're looking over here at one of the major poetic forces in the universe. Not just Kentucky, not just the world, but the universe. This guy, anywhere you go in the world, and I've been in 93 countries, if you ask around, somebody knows somebody who knows Ron. I remember back a while ago when I wanted to become friends on Facebook, I was kind of leery of connecting up with Facebook, and I had a business that I wanted on Facebook, and so I had to have a personal account in order to get the business account. Now I don't even use the business account, I just use mainly the personal account. But I went to Ron and I sent a friend request, and it came back that he had too many friends. I called Ron and he said, "I'll fix that." Somebody, one of his friends, got bumped off. One of the reasons they call him an outlaw poet is because he gets it done. He is a wonderful poet. He's recognized everywhere. His poetry can be understood by the masses, but it also can be studied and dug into by the highest people in academia. And that is something that has only happened to a very few poets in the world. One of those poets was Federico Garcia Lorca. Before I went to Spain, I had heard this 20th century amazing poet, Garcia Lorca, who the academic people just went crazy over. One of my friends told me, "Read Lorca and it'll change your life." I did, and it did. But I had heard that Lorca was being sung in the fields in Spain. And I had trouble kind of figuring out what that was like. So I went to, they call it Barcelona, we call it Barcelona. I went to Barcelona and got out away from the tourist area and found a bar, a taverna. And I went in and I was trying to talk to the bartender. He spoke wonderful Spanish. I spoke Eastern Kentucky English, and we weren't hooking up. I was trying to tell him I wanted to know about Lorca. There was a gentleman sitting over about 3 tables over. He came by and he said, "I can help translate." He knew good Spanish and he knew a little bit of English, and so he told the bartender that I was looking for the poet Lorca. And the bartender lit up, his eyes got bright. And he told the man, and the man told me that Lorca was buried in an unmarked grave in Granada, about 700 miles south. And I thought, let's take our poets and see if, let's just go in a bar and ask them if they know where Robert Frost is buried and see what happens. Ron Whitehead is a poet like Lorca. They will be singing Ron Whitehead in the fields. It is a delight to stand up here, and a great honor, Ron, for me to introduce you in this film, which I can't wait to see, so I'm going to go back to my seat and watch.
Thank you, Lee. It's now my honor to introduce another longtime friend. We have toured throughout Europe and the United States. We spent a lot of time in the trenches, and he saved my ass more than once in troubling and rough situations. His family, he comes from Sicilian hillbillies. That's what we decided. I'm a Kentucky hillbilly, he's a Sicilian hillbilly. But he flew down from Jersey City. He's the New York Mets poet, and if you saw Scorsese's latest film, The Irishman, you may have noticed him in that. Please welcome my friend Frank Messina.
Thank you, Ron. Congratulations. Thank you. It's great to be back here in Louisville. I'm the only Jersey boy that can get away with wearing a hat like this. I want to congratulate Ron on the film and the producers and the directors, Nick Storm, Clayton Luce, and also the many people that make a film behind the scenes that often go up unnoticed. I don't know them all personally. I haven't seen the film. I'm as excited as you all are. But I know from working in front of the camera and behind the camera that it takes a lot of moving parts and a lot of people to make this dream come true. So I'm deeply pleased and honored that I can share this experience with you. And I want to thank Ron for his years of friendship. As Lee mentioned, Ron's work stands both as an accessible work that anybody can read and enjoy, but also can be studied in academia. And I think you'll see that in years to come and beyond us, and our children and grandchildren will see. Much like we've seen Lorca's work, as Lee mentioned, and also American poets, Kerouac, his writing has to find some relevance. Even his poems as well. And with that, I want to quote Kerouac for Ron. For the crucifix, I speak out. For the Star of Israel, I speak out. For the divinest man who ever lived, who was a German, Bach, I speak out. For sweet Muhammad, I speak out. For Buddha, I speak out. For Lao Tse, for Sheng Tse, I speak out. For D.T. Suzuki, I speak out. Why should I attack what I love out of life? This is beat. Live your lives out? Nah, love your lives out. How true is that? Yes. And it relates to Ron because he's been, as a poet, but also as a producer, and as a rabble rouser, and as a catalyst to bring people together. We met in 1994 in New York at the New York University's celebration of the Beats, 50th anniversary of the Beats. And Ron put together what he calls an insomniac-a-thon. I'm sure many of you heard of that. 24-hour, 48-hour insomniac-a-thons featuring music, poetry, bringing people together, young poets, striving, musicians looking for an audience. Ron gave people that opportunity, bringing people together, putting them on a stage in front of people. Lots of people. I know because I was one of those young poets in my 20s. searching, looking for a connection. And I contacted Ron from New Jersey, called him up, and I said, gee, I'd like to perform at that festival. And I did with my group. He made some space for me because it was a packed roster that he had. He didn't need to include Frank Messina, but he chose to, and he did. I want to thank him for that. So here I am all these years later, my own book's out, my own films and everything else, but we're here to celebrate our dear friend Ron, my dear friend, and this storm of a man, storm of a poet, and a catalyst to bring people together, a proponent of poetry, but of peace. So Ron, I've turned to as a friend, as a mentor, and someone to live by, to live like, to emulate in a way, to be compassionate, to listen. 9/11 was one of the worst times in our nation's history, and in my neighborhood. Ron stood up with me as a dear friend and had an ear for me at any time, at any hour. But also, his sense of patience and compassion and love really affected me as a young man, as a poet, but as a human being. And that's what he does all around the world, through his poetry and through his way of life, through his beautiful family, through his friends, and through beautiful Louisville, Kentucky. I had no idea that this Insomniacathon, 48-hour Insomniacathon in 1994 would last 28 years, would last a lifetime. And I spoke to Ron earlier tonight when we were out to dinner with his family. I said, Ron, this Insomniacathon, we had no idea, did we, that it's actually an Insomniacathon encapsulates an entire life. Because who's got time to sleep when you're alive and connecting with people the way Ron does? Congratulations to the filmmakers. Congratulations to my brother Ron, and for you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Mama and I were talking about one of our favorite songs, and we both agreed, wouldn't it be great if Hannah and Matt, the best dobro player in Kentucky, would sing that song. So I sent my niece Hannah a message and asked if they would. And anybody who knows me knows that for decades I've asked people to do stuff for free. Perform, for example. And could you pay for lunch? I won't eat much, which I don't, but it's like, sometimes I wonder if that'll ever end. But Hannah, please welcome Hannah and Matt to Spain.
Ron Whitehead is my mom's brother, and it's an honor to stand with you today in this. All right, we love you.
We're loud, we don't need a microphone.
Just lean in real close. gonna get up out of the ground. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. Go down yonder, Gabriel, put your foot on the landing seat. Oh, Gabriel, don't you blow your trumpet until you hear from me. I looked way over yonder, and what do you think I see? Well, I see a band of angels, and they're coming after me. Then I looked way down the river, saw the people dressed in white, and I knew they was God's children, 'cause I saw them doing right. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. And when I hear that trumpet sound, I'm gonna get up out of the ground. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. Going down to the river Jordan, gonna bury my knees in sand and holler a Hosanna until I reach the promised land. And then I looked way over yonder, and what do you think I see? Oh, I see a band of angels, and they're coming after me. Oh, so meet me, King Jesus, meet me. Won't you meet me in the middle of the air? And if these wings should carry me, I won't need another pair. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. And when I hear that trumpet sound, I'm gonna get up out of the ground. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. And when I hear that trumpet sound, I'm gonna get up out of the ground. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down.
Now, that's kind of music I grew up with, you all. I was listening to that music when I was in Mama's belly. I love it to this day. Hannah and Matt just painting, thank you all. Matt has graced the stage of Grand Ole Opry many times. Maybe the next time we see him perform. 12 years ago, I was in bad shape. And I didn't get over it quickly. I was in bad shape off and on for the following 3 years. 12 years ago is when Nick Storm Generation Films approached me for the first time. I'm not going to talk too much about that because it's revealed in this work of pure Kentucky folk art, which is the best way I've come to describe what these gentlemen have created it's strange to have folks make a movie about your life. I don't know what to think about it. I really don't. I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for Nick. We became dear friends over the years. And 3 years ago, Clayton Luce, who I've done Nick Storm Generation Films, Clayton Luce, Dark Star TV. I've done so many creative projects with Clayton. He's a hard worker. I'm always impressed when city people are hard workers. And then I found out that he's from a small town, I think, in Alabama, maybe. So that gave me a deep understanding in his hard work ethic. But Clayton came in and did so much additional work. Footage. Nick went to people I had gone to trying to get film footage that they had agreed to give it to me after an event, and then they refused to. Nick got it from them. Clayton did so many interviews, including Mama at the Beaver Dam Cafe, and you'll see some of this stuff. And then Chris Maggard, M5 Entertainment, started his film work in LA, met a Kentucky woman, fell in love, and moved to northern Kentucky where he has his own film studio. He came in a year ago and did critical final editing. And I repeated myself several times on this point. I said, y'all have hundreds of hours of film footage. Editing and a storyline are critical. You got to do both, please. And then I smiled and laughed, and they worked their asses off to create what I mentioned, a work of pure Kentucky folk art. Welcome you all to Outlaw Poet, The Legend of Ron Whitehead, which seems really strange to say. Clayton Luce may have a few words to say. Clayton in the house. There you are.
Love you, Clayton.
From Macon, Georgia. I'm not from Alabama. I just want to thank Ron for this opportunity. Nick Storm. It's been a heck of a journey, everybody. I think it said everything that needs to be said. Like Frank said, it takes a big team. Maggard worked his butt off, and he kind of came in at the end of it. I'm somewhat familiar with Ron. I sat down for hours and hours with Nick going over and kind of getting a timeline, and then we just took it to Maggard and we're just like, here you go, make a movie. So he did a really great job. We've polished it off and refined it. And he has a few words for us here, Mr. Projectionist, if you can cue it up. But big thanks to Maggard and Sean Saunders and the team over at Creative Motion Studios. And there's all sorts of people. Derek Spiel here, Forsake Media. So thanks to everyone involved. And let's hear what Maggard had to say.
Clayton Luce and Nick Storm for bringing me on to help edit this, or I'd be your lead editor on this project. Ron Whitehead, you crazy son of a bitch. Man, brother, you have been everywhere. Your journeys, your stories, your poems, music, mind-blowing. It's been an honor to be the lead editor on this project and work with everybody involved, everybody. And I gotta say, Ron, you're a diamond in the rough, brother. Man, what a journey, bro. And here we are tonight. I hope everybody enjoys this documentary. This is an amazing story. And I'm gonna tell you something. I was handed 10 years plus of footage to edit into what you're gonna see tonight. Wow, that was a challenge. But I did my best, and I hope everybody has a great time. Much love and success for everybody involved that brought this project together. Much love and success to you, Ron. Well deserved, brother. Love you.
Kentucky bound. No matter where I wander, no matter how far I roam, the most beautiful place on the planet is always singing my song. Calling me home. Nature and her people shaped me, help make me who I am, until the day I die. I will be thankful. I am forever Kentucky bound.
Kentucky in the early days was a wild and rugged place, a land of between worlds, people forgotten deep in the hills, the mines and rural farmlands, an untamed wilderness, seized by the forces of industry, progress, and the titans who profited on the backs of strong, hard-working men. This would be the backdrop for an incredible American story, the story of a young Kentucky boy who would go on to record the history of those people and to carry out of those dark lands a story of hope and redemption, of the fire and the wind, the Green River and the mighty Ohio, and of the deep black coal that would give birth to the man and legend of Ron Whitehead.
On being an outlaw poet, the ending of time, an alchemical rant. To live outside the law, you must be honest. Bob Dylan, outlaw poet. An outlaw can be defined as somebody who lives outside the law, beyond the law, not necessarily against it. By the time I wrote Hell's Angels, I was riding with them, and it was clear that it was no longer possible for me to go back and live within the law. There were a lot more outlaws than me. I was just a writer. I wasn't trying to be an outlaw writer. I never heard of the term. Somebody else made it up, but we were outside the law. Kerouac, Miller, Burroughs, Ginsberg, Kesey, me. I didn't have a gauge as to who was the worst outlaw. I just recognized my allies, my people. Hunter S. Thompson, outlaw writer. Time was, time is, time will be no more. And it's the Big Bang epiphany and the gap between thought and image, strings racing. Whispering through my throbbing blood, pleading through my dancing bones, strange activities of my laughing nerves, the unconscious life of the ecstatic mind, a tetrameter of I ams marching, shouting out chemically transmutative symbol decipherment, the book as sacred elixir, manger du livre, eat the book and the words will set you free. The shortest distance between 2 points is creative distance. And Allen Ginsberg howls, I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, and dying. The Prima rants, the only war that matters is the war against the imagination. All other wars are subsumed in it. And the Mary Baraka chants, they have turned and say that I am dying, that I have thrown my life away. They have left me alone where there is no one, nothing save who I am. Not a note, not a word. And William S. Burroughs eats naked lunch. And Gregory Corso pours gasoline. And David Amram sings Pull My Daisy. And Herbert Huncke is in the hospital. And Neil Cassidy died naked on those long-distance railroad tracks to nowhere. And Lawrence Ferlinghetti paints Pictures of the gone world, and Jack Kerouac is still on the road. Mysterium Tremendum, Gnostical Turpitude, Allen Ginsberg, Diana Prima, Murray Baraka, William S. Burroughs, Gregory Corso, David Amram, Herbert Huncke, Neil Cassidy, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Jack Kerouac, numerous howls and rants and chants and paintings and songs, and years of tears come fiercely flowing, streaming. All the pain wells up, years of failure, of not being enough for anyone, years of wandering, lost on the outside, outlaw, being told, you ain't shit, you don't fit, what the fuck are you doing here? All you've done is create pain and sorrow. Wouldn't you be better off dead? Turning away from, walking away from, disappearing from bullies, authorities, tyrants, the past, the dead, in the hermetic corridors of authority. The dead softly splash in their shallow sewers, devouring and regurgitating themselves. And with tears in my eyes, a snarl on my lips, and peace in my heart, I'm failing as no other dare fail. I'm in the gap between thought and image. How'd I get here after all the years of not being self, after all the years of being other, of floating out of my body on the ceiling, watching skin, blood, bones, nerves, going through the motions, believing in space and time without realizing I was already out of sync, beyond chaos, breathing rhythms at the ending of time. And now, here in the gap between thought and image, where the only distance is creative distance, here, now, at the ending of time, I focus all three eyes in wolf fashion, closing time. I walk through the stone, I flow through the fire, I enter the upper chamber, in the crystal tip of the golden pyramid, the confluence of all streams, polyglot commingling of all voices. Thela speaks herself, and as I float over the open sarcophagus, I am the ocean of consciousness.
Just kidding.
Las mujeres no importan ni el dinero ni el amor. El día como mi caballo hacia donde voy. Las estrellas y la luna y las medias en el color. Ay, 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 ay.
Tomorrow's who's who, what's what. Even you are your own worst enemy. As you look in the mirror and see those fake faces that turn their back on you, and you never wondered why, for it was for their own selfish gain. And like the withering rose at the grave, I see only shadow and flame.
Once upon a time, the end of the world took forever, but not anymore. Those days are long gone. These days, the end of the world comes quick. Before you know it, it will be over. Like a shooting star at 3 a.m. There it goes. Wow, the end of the world. Frogg Courts, Brent and Brennan Embry, thank you guys. Thank y'all for showing up tonight. Yeah. What a movie. Thank you. Nick Storm and Clayton Luce. Wow.
I want to hear poetry heave from dry mouths of pedestrians on Broadway. Read a minute outside with me, I want to hear poetry. When I'm driving in my car, I want street signs to read. Through the frost of my windshield, two roads diverge in the wood. I'll choose the way from there. I want to hear poetry. And I think I came to the right town. Louisville town. Whitehead town. Town where truth and honor Officer. When you stopped me last night, why did you ask for my license, my registration? Insurance card? Why not recite verse 2 of Bob Dylan's Police Dog Blues, because it'll do for you. Because I want to hear. I want to hear. I want to hear. In Louisville, town, in America, town. When I'm on a date, don't you patronize me with your mascara and your good love? What a line from Frankie O'Hara or Gwendolyn Wood. Restaurant, don't you push. Today's special on me. Just serve up an entree of romantic realist cuisine. A platter of Wordsworth and Coleridge, a side of Ferlinghetti with beets. A dish of Dante extra spicy. A snifter of Sonia Sanchez. A tumbler of Yusuf Komanyaka. A shot of Jack Kerouac. And don't forget that put that Allen Ginsberg in a doggy bag, because I may need him later. I want to hear poetry.
There you are. Ha. Thank you, Frank Messina.
Woo!
Shooting up poetry in New Orleans. Near the levee, a maroon Hudson sedan driven by Neil Cassidy pulls up to a dilapidated old house with tall grass and weeping willows in the yard. It's 509 Wagner Street, Algiers, the home of William S. Burroughs. Neil, Jack Kerouac, Al Hinkle, and Louis Ann Henderson arrive from the road to spend a few days with Burroughs. Burroughs rarely goes out except to make his connection. He invites Kerouac to try his orgone accumulator. Burroughs says, sit inside and you'll absorb life principle atoms right out of the atmosphere. He attempts to convince Kerouac into abandoning his road trip with Cassidy. Years later, I'm in New Orleans, standing outside the Howlin' Wolf Club. I'm here to produce yet another Beat Generation spirited 48-hour non-stop music and poetry insomniacathon, and I've been burning up the road day and night with no end in sight. I'm feeling burnt out, tired to the bone, so I'm searching for a fix of poetry to shoot into my blood, to rejuvenate my spirit. I'm calling on Bill Burroughs and Jack Kerouac and Neil Cassidy, but I haven't found my orgone accumulator, my new poetry yet, and my head is hanging so low it's dragging the ground. I've known nothing but failure lately, and I've been burning the candle at both ends so long there's nothing left of me but smoke and ashes. So I'm wondering if the time has finally arrived for me to become cinder for that long-distance, never-ending railroad track to nowhere. My spirit screams out for help, and in a flash I hear Allen Ginsberg whisper, take a hand, share the word. And out of the blue, the poetry gospel starts flowing through my groin and my gut and my heart and my head, and my, oh my, I jump and shout and sing. Yes, right in front of the Howlin' Wolf Club, I'm grabbed hold of by the poetry spirit, and now someone's singing and banging on a piano. So I open the door and peek in, and lo and behold, there's Dr. John doing double note crossovers and over and unders. There's doing Ula Mala Wala, Zuzu Ya. They're playing, he's playing and speaking in tongues right here in the middle of the holy New Orleans afternoon, and out of the blue, I found the poetry I've been looking for. I look up and there's the full moon smiling at me from over the Mississippi River, and I think of Algiers and Bill Burroughs and Jack Kerouac and Neil Cassidy, and I think of Neil's flame, gone, his naked body lying beside those long-distance, never-ending railroad tracks to nowhere, and I hope all the poets and musicians performing at this 48-hour non-stop music and poetry insomniac-a-thon, hell, I hope all of us keep the funk, keep that fuck you flame alive. Don't let the system break you. Don't let life break you. And I hear Dr. John playing that piano and singing his boogie woogie into the world blues. And in that moment, I know my reward is in the experience of poetry. And right here, right now, I'm in New Orleans with all these poets and musicians who somehow know the magical power of poetry. The word sets us free. And I think about Allen Ginsberg and what he said about taking somebody's hand, because we're all in this together. We're pulling. We ain't pushing. We're letting it be. We realize that when one of us is lifted up, we're all lifted up. And I realize that poetry is life, and life is poetry. And I feel an energy rising through me, growing strong, coming from poets and musicians of all ages. And I don't feel like failure anymore. I feel good. I feel strong. I feel reborn into poetry, into life. And it feels like resurrection, rebirth into poetry right here, right now, shooting up poetry in New Orleans.